that last reference to customers is, of course, HUAWEI. How much does this have to do with HUAWEI in particular? How much does this have to do with China at large?
Yeah, I mean, this company is in the crosshairs. They're, arguably the best example of a company based in the US that's part of this global supply chain. Even stuff that they're selling that isn't going into the China market and staying there is coming here, is going to Europe. So this is them saying basically the worst case scenario, what you're all concerned about is absolutely true. And by the way, we have this giant customer as well that isn't ordering anymore because they can't. Right,
so they've had to cut off HUAWEI in particular. Yep. What about Apple, which sort of faces the looming threat of tariffs? Haven't hit Apple in a broad-based way yet, but there's potential concerns about demand issues in China, which could be government-related, could be just customers in China boycotting Apple.
Right. I mean, there are a whole range of scenarios, and as you mentioned, none of them are particularly pleasant. There's the macro slowdown. Is this depressing consumer sentiment? Is this causing a reflex reaction against U.S. products like Apple's iPhone? We've already seen Apple losing market share in China, so basically all of the above could be what's going on here.
Now, Max, of course, Broadcom is just one of the U.S. companies that has in the past supplied HUAWEI, which has been a big customer, not just for Broadcom, but also Qualcomm. Are we expected to see this through the year as other companies report results that have had ties to HUAWEI historically?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge problem, and it's kind of a problem for the same reason that this trade war hurts Apple, which is that China is the big growth market for the technology industry in general. So all of these chip suppliers, including Broadcom and Qualcomm, are selling huge quantities of products to HUAWEI and other Chinese companies, and so they are definitely kind of the first on the firing line. Now the thing is, it arguably hurts HUAWEI more than it hurts their suppliers, because it's going to be very hard for HUAWEI to go about its normal business if it can't get the technology it needs to put things out.
So, Ian, meantime, there's a lot of interesting dynamics happening here. Hon Hai Foxconn saying they could make U.S.-bound phones outside of China, so that could offset some of these issues. How does this play out for Broadcom? How does this play out for other chip makers that are also tied up in this?
Well, that's a very good question, and I think what we've been dealing with up until now has been a relative amount of uncertainty. We don't know how these bans are going to work out. We don't know which specific products are going to be halted from shipping to China. This today is telling us whatever happens, it's not going to be good. And back to what Max said, HUAWEI can get things from Europeans, from the Koreans, from the Taiwanese, can replace a lot of what it needs, but some of the things it absolutely can't, and Broadcom is one of the suppliers in terms of RF chips, in terms of switch chips, can't go anywhere else.
Max, meantime, HUAWEI waiting for potentially more bad news. The UK government making a decision about whether to include HUAWEI in its 5G networks. How much longer can HUAWEI sort of hang on here, as these decisions are made around the world that don't necessarily go in its favor?
So, I mean, in terms of HUAWEI's sort of customer base, HUAWEI does have access to some really big markets. So yeah, I mean, it hurts HUAWEI that it can't do much business in the U.S. right now, or the fact that some of these European countries that have historically bought its gear are now kind of getting cold feet. But they've had access to China, to India, and none of that is going to go away anytime soon. There is this interesting thing happening in Europe where the UK and some other countries had basically decided that HUAWEI equipment was okay, and they had come up with a testing regime that included this this building where the equipment was vetted, and basically Trump and this new U.S. framework for dealing with HUAWEI has thrown that all into disarray, where you have countries like the UK reconsidering whether HUAWEI can be bought without creating a security risk.